Wonderful to be here for the October 24th, 2019 Indiana Housing Community Development Authority meeting. General Counsel, is there a quorum?
Madam Chair, you do have a quorum.
Thank you so much. If we could start by the board members introducing themselves for those that are many public fans that are out there watching and interested. We'll start.
That's great. Thank you. My name is Mark Pasquale. I'm with the Indiana Finance Authority, and I'm the Deputy Public Finance Director, Dan Hughes.
Kelly Mitchell, State Treasurer.
Laura Brown, Special Counsel to the Lieutenant Governor.
Suzanne Crouch, Lieutenant Governor.
Jacob Scythe, Executive Director at Indiana Housing Community Development Authority.
Mike Schotmeyer, Condees, Evansville, Indiana.
Tom McGowan, I'm President and COO, Kite Realty Group Trust appointee.
Sheena Robinson, IHCDA Paralegal and the Board Secretary.
Wonderful. And our first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the September 26, 2019 board meeting. Are there any additions, corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you. Our next item is bond volume, 4% credits, Cedar Glen Apartments, and please welcome Peter Nelson, who will be discussing a recommendation for the board.
Good morning.
Morning.
I am here this morning to recommend Cedar Glen Apartments for tax credits and bond volume. So this project was the fourth application we received and reviewed as a part of the 2019 bond round. It has a total development cost of just over $13.1 million and is requesting $7.3 million in bond volume and $373,058 in LIHTC annually for 10 years to rehab 179 units of affordable housing. Merchants Affordable Housing is proposing the rehabilitation of this project. It's currently a market rate development that's operating at close to affordable rents. So they wanted to bring it into the tax credit program, make sure these rents stay affordable for the long term. The property consists of 5 three-story buildings. It is 39 one-bedroom and 140 two-bedroom units for families in the South Bend area. The rehab scope is maybe a little bit lighter than some other projects that we've seen, but Merchants acquired this project from another developer who had put a little bit of rehab money into it. I want to say maybe about $10 million. They replaced like some of the boilers and some of the gut systems, and then for whatever reason were unable to complete that, so Merchants came in and is doing the rest of the work, finishing the boiler replacements, doing the plumbing, new roofs, and then some of the more interior stuff, such as fixtures, flooring, cabinetry, to update these units and make them more livable and more appealing. Merchants is also updating the leasing office in the community space, so it'll be ADA compliant. And then the project is actually in a pretty good location in South Bend, near a lot of local amenities, so residents will have access to stuff like grocery stores, public schools. There's a library close by, community centers. There's actually a zoo within a mile, so that's kind of a neat thing we don't see too often. But we were able to review this project under the 2019-2020 Qualified Allocation Plan, and the development team met with real estate and executive team members to present the project on October 7th. With all of that, I'm happy to recommend the full amount of the tax credits and bond volume for this project, and happy to take any questions about it at this time.
Board, any questions for Peter?
Only question I have, Peter, is what's the authority's history with Merchants?
Merchants has actually been doing a lot of bond deals recently with us. They've been acting as consultants on a lot of projects, and they've actually come in quite a bit as equity providers on some other deals. So in the past couple of years, we've seen them on quite a few projects, and they've historically done pretty good work. So
That was the second part of the question.
yeah.
Any additional questions? Peter, I think we're ready for your recommendation,
Excellent.
or your resolution rather.
Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve awarding $7,300,000 in bond volume and $373,058 in annual LIHTC to MAH Cedar Glen LP for Cedar Glen Apartments according to the terms of the 2019 AB application round as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
And please welcome Samantha Spurgel to discuss a home buyer award recommendation. Good morning. Good morning.
My name is Samantha Spurgel. I am the Director of Real Estate Production with IHCDA. I actually have a few things this morning, but the first is our recommendation for the Home Buyer Award. Back in April, IHCDA relaunched our Home Buyer program. This aligns with some new guidance that HUD, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, put out late last year, and we actually re-established our single-family pro forma and established a tool to underwrite individual home buyers. Applications are available to nonprofits and units of local government and accepted on a rolling basis. This is our second award that we've brought to the board since April. This is for the Habitat for Humanity of Marshall County, who's proposing to develop 10 single-family units for homeownership, 3 units in Argos, 3 units in Bourbon, and 4 units in Plymouth. And with this project, we will now have funded 12 units this year, and I am currently underwriting a third project and hope to bring that to the board very shortly, which is very exciting. So with that, I can answer any questions.
Any questions, board members? Yes, Kevin.
What other funds go into this project? Like, that money is not enough for 10 units, I'm assuming.
Correct.
Yes.
Some of it is private financing. Generally, we see with Habitats for Humanity a lot of donated labor, donated materials, which we actually count toward the 25% match requirement for the home program, as well as sweat equity for the individuals purchasing the homes.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? I believe we're ready for your resolution.
Fantastic. Staff recommends the approval, I have a page over. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve home funding in the form of a grant in an amount not to exceed $400,000 to Habitat for Humanity of Marshall County as recommended by staff.
Board, we have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
Madam Chair, I'll move to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion approves. And I believe, Samantha, you also have a recommendation regarding the Home Innovation Round Initiative.
Yes, I've not made today easy on myself. In November of 2018, IHCDA put out a request for proposals to elicit trainers to provide an in-person project development training track to assemble an affordable housing project, and TDA Consulting, who is HUD's home TA provider, was selected through that. Subsequently, then we are requesting to release a request for proposal to select 3 eligible nonprofits who will propose an innovative affordable housing project to target an unmet need. So for those of you that have been around and been on the board, or those in the audience with IHCDA for a while, this is in part inspired by the innovation round that we used to do with the general set aside of tax credits under the QAP. Respondents are expected under this RFP to propose a unique affordable housing concept. But the concept also must include a proposal to develop units for homeownership, as we've seen a lot of public comment from our partners for the need for additional homeownership. So there are 3 main objectives. The first is to obviously increase the availability of affordable rental and homeownership, targeting households at or below 80% of the area median income. Secondly, to identify an unmet community need and how that impact of the need will impact the community and how their proposal will address that need, and the barriers that may prevent the respondent from utilizing IHCDA's current home funding. And then last is to propose an innovative concept. So the 3 nonprofit respondents will be selected under this RFP, and upon successful training may be eligible for up to $2 million each of home funding, which is something we've never done before. They'll still be required to apply for home funding, still have to meet all of our underwriting guidelines, as well as all the federal regulations and state regulations. And then upon that selection, those construction projects will be brought to the board for final approval. So with that, I can answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
I admit I was following the wrong one. I'm caught up now.
Yeah.
I think we
I
skipped
think
over
I
one.
went, yeah, I think I missed one.
We
But,
roll with punches.
absolutely. Can you explain the unmet community needs?
Sure. We are under this RFP defining what that could be, but it could be a new population that this nonprofit has not served. It could be that there is something beyond housing that the community needs, in which the housing is a component of a larger project. What I'm really hoping is that I don't have something defined right now, and that our partners who are out in the community will really bring to us new challenges that they are seeing on the ground as they begin to do this important work, and then we can reevaluate those proposals and see if that's something we want to integrate into future rounds.
I had thought of, I don't know, I was trying to come up with what that might be, and I thought if it's in an area considered a food desert, is that potentially?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so one of my inspirations in thinking through this was a project that we funded through the innovation route called the Mercantile in Alexandria,
Oh,
which is a affordable housing, I believe, senior deal that also has a grocery store on the bottom level. So the home funding wouldn't go into necessarily funding that grocery store, but we could provide that technical assistance to that team and help them find funding that could perhaps provide that service,
Okay, thank you.
which is exciting.
Any additional questions? I think we're ready for your resolution.
Fantastic. Staff respectfully requests the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve the Home Investment Partnerships Program Innovation Round Initiative.
We have a resolution before us. Is there a motion for approval?
Move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and approved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And I apologize to the board. I did skip the West Calumet Neighborhood Workforce Housing Initiative, which I'm sure
Still Samantha.
Yes.
we'll hear from now.
Yep. So back in June, the Board of Directors passed a resolution approving the West Calumet Neighborhood Workforce Housing Initiative. This is part of our ongoing efforts in East Chicago. On July 8th, IHCDA released a request for qualifications with the intent of selecting one nonprofit respondent in partnership with the City of East Chicago. Responses were due on or before August 19th. With that RFQ, we received a total of 3 responses. Each response was reviewed by both IHCDA and City of East Chicago staff, and they were checked for completeness and to determine whether all the threshold requirements were met. With that, the selected respondent will receive $700,000 in the form of a grant through 2 sources from IHCDA. The first is through the Affordable Housing and Community Development Fund, or Development Fund, and the second is through funding that we've had through the what's called the Financial Adjustment Factor and Below Market Interest Rate Reincentive Program. It's a mouthful. From the Arkansas Development Finance Authority. And then the City of East Chicago themselves are also going to be putting in $350,000, which I think is pretty fantastic. So the selected respondent will be required to identify potential home buyers, complete and submit development application, and pro forma still meet all those threshold requirements. But this will be for the construction of 6 single-family units. Those households will also receive housing counseling through the selected respondent. And then we'll continue to work on establishing a revolving loan fund so we can continue in perpetuity to develop single-family housing. So today, IHCDA is recommending a Safe Haven Foundation as our selected nonprofit respondent. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions by the board? Yeah, Kelly.
Under your criteria that you evaluated the respondents, the ability to utilize and support the revolving loan fund, can you just dive into that a little bit?
Sure. So our intent with that was to create a fund for the nonprofit and the city to continue to recycle funding so they can continue single-family home ownership, and specifically in the West Calumet Zone 2 and Zone 3 area. With that, we were looking for a respondent that had the experience and expertise of operating a revolving loan fund, that had experience in utilizing other sources of funding and understood how to set loan standards so they could continue to revolve those funds. IHCDA will be providing with the City of East Chicago additional technical assistance. Each source of funding has their own regulations, which may provide some different guidance on how those funds come back. But with that, I think this will be very successful and allow this nonprofit to continue this development.
Great, thank you.
Any additional questions, Tom?
One other, as part of the initiative, are these targeted lots together? Are they sporadic, or is it very focused in one area?
Great question. So currently, the 6 parcels of land are all targeted together. In East Chicago, the EPA right now is cleaning parcel by parcel, and so these 6 lots have been deemed appropriate for single-family homeownership development. Through our partnership for the City of East Chicago, we've continued to identify additional lots of land, and we'll continue to work with the City of East Chicago and then a Safe Haven Foundation as those new plots become available and are deemed appropriate for continued development.
Far more efficient. That's good.
Any additional questions? I believe we're ready for your resolution, Samantha.
Thank you. So there are 2. So the first, staff respectfully requests that the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve awarding Affordable Housing and Community Development Fund funding in the form of a grant in an amount not to exceed $532,674.34 to a Safe Haven Foundation as recommended by staff.
We have a resolution before us for it. Is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I'll move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries, and we're ready for your second resolution.
Staff respectfully requests that the board approve the following resolution. Resolve that the board approve awarding financial adjustment factor and below market interest rate re-incentive program funding in a form of a grant not in an amount not to exceed $167,325.66 to a Safe Haven Foundation as recommended by staff.
We have a resolution before us for it. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Samantha. And please welcome Carmen Lethig to discuss recommendations for creating places funding, program funding, and delegated authority. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Carmen Lethig, and I'm the placemaking manager here at IHCDA. So Creating Places is IHCDA's funding program for placemaking projects that help activate underutilized public spaces. It's a crowd granting program where a project raises funds through a marketing crowdfunding campaign, and then IHCDA will match the funding goal dollar for dollar when the goal is met. Today, I'm presenting to the Board of Directors to request an additional development fund grant project funding in the amount of $1 million to continue with year 4 of the Creating Places program. Creating Places was initially approved by IHCDA's Board of Directors in 2016 for $1 million in project funding and has subsequently been renewed at that same amount each fall since that time. Each year, our program partner, Patronicity, has also contractually received $100,000 in development fund for program administration. And I would like to point out that Bridget Anderson from Patronicity is in the audience today in case we have any specific questions about our projects that we have funded over the course of time. Since its inception 3 years ago, there have been 88 project campaigns that have launched and completed funding. Currently, there are 3 projects raising funds through a campaign right now, and there are 3 projects that are approved and waiting to launch their campaigns. For just a quick snapshots of the kinds of projects that we have funded over the past 3 years, we've had public murals, we've had parks, plazas, and playgrounds, a preservation tour, a trolley, an urban agriculture and related programming, an alley activation, peace monuments, trails, amphitheaters, community art centers, canoe and kayak launches, a skate park, a dog park, and community events, and interesting, some train cars that were turned into public restrooms in a public space up in Chesterton, Indiana. As of today, there are $63,000 left in remaining project funds. So I do just want to quickly point out a couple things about the Creating Places program that makes it a little bit different from some of the things that we fund traditionally in the real estate department at IHCDA. So this is one of the programs that can be utilized statewide, so we're not geographically constricted per regulations at the federal level. And it can be utilized by communities of all sizes. For example, we've had several projects in Indianapolis, which has a population of about 800,000 people. And then we also funded a project in Yeoman, Indiana, and they had a population of about 130 people. So we can use it on a wide variety of communities throughout the state. And it garners positive media attention for IHCDA, but probably more importantly for the people that are doing good work in our communities. One of our projects was recently featured on the CBS Sunday morning program just a couple weeks ago.
Which one?
The Idol in Indianapolis. Jake is in there for like 2 seconds, so you
Am I
should
really?
check it out.
Were you
Yeah.
really?
I wasn't anywhere.
Yeah,
I thought
cutting
you
the
s- I thought
ribbon.
you sent that clip to me. You got
Big arrow was pointing.
Now everybody's going to Google it when they get back to their desk. Another thing is it has allowed Bridget and I to speak to a variety of new audiences that might not have otherwise heard of IHCDA. We've talked to people in the bike and pedestrian world, so landscape architects, historic preservation, parks and recreation professionals, artists, librarians, and high school students from around the state that participate in mayor's youth councils. Another thing to think about is the application process is very streamlined, where we all the applications are taken online, and we have a 3-day turnaround for project approval process. Let's see. The only other thing I would like to point out is you do have a snapshot of our dashboard, which was created as part of the initial part of the program and allows us to quickly look at some of the metrics and data that surround the program, and those change project by project, so it's nice to be able to look at those. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Carmen?
I just have a comment, and, you know, in my industry, more and more of these public spaces become more and more important because the age of technology and personal interaction decreases. These spaces become so important in communities, and, you know, I think one example, it really was funded through a large individual grant, but I drive home every day at 38th Street between Illinois and Meridian. You see what they've done there. It's just unbelievable. And all interactions of all types are there, and young, old, etc. And I just think it's great that this is an initiative. I know it's been successful, and will just encourage us to continue it because it's such a big deal to communities.
Any additional questions, comments? I believe we're ready for your resolution, Carmen.
And I do have 2 resolutions today. The first one, staff respectfully requests that the board approve the following resolutions. Resolve that the board authorizes IHCDA staff to take all actions necessary to approve the allocation of the crowdfunding grants, provided that the board is informed of all crowdfunding awards on an annual basis as recommended by staff.
We have a resolution before us. Is there a motion?
I will move for approval.
Second.
It's been moved and approved. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries, and we're ready for your second resolution.
Resolve that the board approves the allocation of development fund in the form of grants in an amount not to exceed $1 million as recommended by staff.
We have a resolution before us. Is there a motion?
I shall second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in
It's a
favor?
lot of pressure.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Carmen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And please welcome Jeff Zongolowitz to discuss the award recommendations for the Indiana Housing First Program. Good morning.
Good morning, Board. My name's Jeff. I'm the Housing Choice Programs Manager here at IHCDA. And I'm here to recommend awards for the Indiana Housing First Program for the program year to begin, or 2-year awards beginning this year. A little bit of background on this program. It was established in state legislation in 2017. And then the first awards for the program were made in May of 2018, and those are 2-year awards that will be expiring next May. This is our second round of awards that we're making for this program. We had a little over $870,000 available this year. We released a RFP in August to solicit response applications. We received 7 applications for the $872,000. The max award request was $300,000. Those were due in September. We initially met as the selection committee, requested some clarification from the applicants, and then met earlier this month to make final selections for the awards, which I'm here to present today. A little bit more background on the program. The Housing First program was created to provide rental assistance and supportive services to households experiencing a housing crisis who are also experiencing mental illness, chronic chemical addiction, or serious persistent mental illness with co-occurring chronic chemical addiction. And it has to be, eligible recipients have to either be experiencing housing crisis or exiting a residential treatment program. We've had awardees do both of those options. And then I will move on to key performance indicators. So these were not included in the previous award year because it was prior to those being on board memos. We will now be tracking utilization of awarded funds by recipients, the total number of households served by the recipients, and compliance with the recipients throughout the award period. And I can take any questions.
Any questions for Jeff? Yes, Ken.
Do you know what percentages of this supports families and or individuals? And I see it's a mix, right?
So I have data on the total number of households that have been supported. I can get data for you
I
on.
just wondered if you knew. No.
Yeah, I mean, we do have unit sizes on who have been assisted, so that would provide us if it's an individual or family. But I just have the total number of households, which, for the previous awards, which were made in May 2018, they have assisted 216 total households to this point.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions? I believe we're ready for your resolution. Jeff.
Staff recommends that the board approve awarding Indiana Housing First Program funds to the applicants listed in Table A. Staff respectfully requests that the board approve the following resolution. Resolved that the board approve awarding an allocation of Indiana Housing First Program funds in an aggregate amount not to exceed $872,226 to the 4 applicants indicated in Table A as recommended by staff.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Jeff. And please welcome Kylene Welling to provide a community programs update. Good morning.
I apologize, we are gonna turn on the projector, so those of you on the back wall may wanna move so you're not blinded by the very bright light. And you should also have this in your packet, so if you can't see very well. You have it on this wall and right behind you. Well, thanks for allowing me to speak with you today and give a little update on our Community Programs Department. October is Energy Awareness Month, and since 2 of our major programs deal with energy efficiency and energy benefits, we thought this would be a great time to update you on what the team is up to. I do have some members of the team here with us today, so if you could stand up so the board can recognize you. This team's done a lot. So we have our Weatherization Manager, Larissa, our Energy Assistance Manager, Thomas Hartnett-Russell, and Veronica, our CSBG and all other random community programs program manager with us. So unfortunately, our director, Lauren Perry, was sick today, so she could not join us. So this is the team that makes all the magic happen with all these very large federal programs. Our Community Programs Department oversees anti-poverty programs, which promote self-sufficiency and the health and well-being of low-income families. The majority of the programs I'll talk about today are administered by a network of 22 community action agencies across the state, and all of these programs are federally funded. The first I'll talk about is the Community Service Block Grant. CSBG provides funds to alleviate the causes and conditions of poverty in communities. The funds must be distributed via an approved allocation methodology to the local community action agencies, and our annual appropriation is about $10 million from the feds. This is a very flexible funding source, so Veronica highlighted some of the outcomes we saw from our last round of reporting, which would have been for program year 2018. This can be used to support a variety of programs and services at the local level. We don't dictate what programs and services our partners offer, they just provide them and then report back to us on the populations they're serving. As you can see, there's a variety of programming offered based on the Community Action Agency and their focus, from job training to various family development programs relating to nutrition, budgeting, parenting skills, housing services provided. And the real benefit our community action agencies provide is they really provide have the capacity to provide detailed case management to the families that they're serving, and really help them access a variety of services, whether they provide them directly or connect them with other resources within their region. Our partners are encouraged to leverage other relationships. Our last reporting period, as you can see, they partnered with 1,400 other nonprofits in their communities and 2,600 for-profit businesses. The amount of funding they were able to leverage, other federal funding, almost $200 million. So that tends to be mostly TANF, ESG, some Head Start funding, and some other state of Indiana funding resources that they participate in. And then quickly, just some demographic information about the breakdown of the clients they served. The network as a whole in the 2018 program year served 343,664 individuals, and that comprised 161,000 households. So as you can see, gender, age, and race breakdown, and then the type of household served. One of our exciting new initiatives that we're working with our community action partners on is a 2-gen initiative, which is providing services in a 2-generation model, so providing services to children and families together. We are adopting the Aspen Institute model on that. There's a little diagram at the bottom, and we'll be doing a collaborative throughout the next year with our partners, helping them understand more about 2-gen programming and what that design would look like. That initiative is going to be led by the United Way of Central Indiana, providing that training, and they'll also be providing technical assistance through our Community Action Association partners. This year it's a collaborative effort. We're using some CSBG discretionary dollars that we had. Next year, those that complete the collaborative will be able to apply for specific grants to do new projects or provide new services that support the 2-gen model. Energy assistance. This is our energy benefit program. It helps keep families safe and healthy through assistance with their energy bills. Last program year, we had about $77 million that we were appropriated and that we allocated out across the state. Program year 2019, which just ended a couple of weeks ago, we increased the number of households we were able to serve by over 5% over the prior year. So this last program year, we saw about 111,000 low-income households that were served. Over 17,000 of them, that's a typo in the first bullet point there, received winter crisis, which meant they were in an active disconnect or had received a disconnect notice. So just highlighting the criticality of this funding to keep people with their utilities on. This year, we also had a summer crisis program for those that had found themselves back in that situation by the time the summer season rolled around, and 3,600 families were able to take advantage of that additional benefit. We also use some of our energy assistance money. We have a small set aside for furnace repairs and replacements. We cannot provide a benefit to a household that does not have a working and functional heating source. So we are able to supplement some of these households and get them back on track there. And then also this money is used to supplement our weatherization program, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Our most recent program year that we have data for would be the 2018 program year. In that year, we paid on average 31% of the household's annual energy bill. And you can see there, our goal is to continue to try to target those households that are particularly high burden, where their energy bill is a particularly high percentage of their overall bills related to their income. And for the program year 2018, that's the last year I have the data, our average benefit was $568 per household. So this is a once a year benefit. Typically, if we have excess funding, we can provide it during the summer months, but Indiana is a heating state, so our goal is to provide this money typically between October and February. Our weatherization assistance program, this is our only Department of Energy program that we oversee. The purpose is to provide energy conservation measures to people in their homes in an attempt to drive down their bills over time so that they're not spending as much on utilities. Common measures that we do in these households are repairing and replacing furnaces and their water heaters, installing additional insulation, reducing airflow throughout their house, and sealing and repairing ducts to keep cold air from entering. Our 16-17 program year is the last year we have closed out. We were able to serve almost 2,500 people that year. As you can see, we do prioritize those who are elderly, disabled, or households that have a child under the age of 6. That year, we were able to spend $12 million. Over half of that came from our LIHEAP program that I just mentioned. That was moved over to this program to augment that, and 31% of that was our Department of Energy funding. There you can just see some statistics. Average dwelling size is about 1,300 square feet, and 75% of them were single-family homes. As you can see from this graph, natural gas was the highest percentage of primary heating fuel types, and this just kind of shows what percentage of savings averaged over the state that those clients were able to see, so about a 26% savings in that, and the list just shows our different partners and their average rates there as well. Indiana, of course, not surprising, gas and electricity are our main forms of heating, so almost 90% of the units we weatherize, that is their main heating source, but we still do see some wood heated households and propane. I don't have a resolution, so I'll entertain any questions you might have about these programs or anything else from the department.
Any questions? Thank you, Colleen.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just have one
Please.
comment. Jacob always gets tired of me saying this, but you hear about all these programs and you hear how much is happening, and I always wonder how many people know about all the good work that this authority's doing. One thing I was thinking during the presentation is, and I know you guys have made tremendous progress in terms of getting the word out compared to where you started, a lot of progress. But do we, with annual reports, things like that go through all of the activities, do those get to all the mayors in the state of Indiana, just so these communities really know how much you're doing, which I think the chair would find to be attractive too, because every time I sit in a meeting, I think, God, there's so much going on, and I can tell you, up in my office, no one knows about it. It's just a comment, obviously, is maybe we could, at a minimum, have each mayor in the state be given a briefing, either through an annual report, et cetera, with some form of follow-up. So just a simple comment to both of you.
Great suggestion.
Thank you.
Great. I guess we are
Ready for the update?
ready for your update.
Okay,
Chief?
good. At the last meeting, we were at the housing conference, and as part of the closing of the conference, we give out the 2019 Excellence in Affordable Housing Awards. And I just want to recap who those awardees were, because we celebrate some of the excellence of developments around our state. In rural housing, Phoenix Manor in Woodburn was the recipient of the Rural Housing Award. The Senior Housing Award went to Silver Birch in Evansville. And our Special Needs Housing was a permanent supportive housing development in Gary called the Village of Hope. And then our urban housing was Carpenter Court Apartments in Evansville as well. So all four of those properties received an award. And at the last meeting I mentioned I would update you on those recipients. So very proud of those. So one of the things that we're also really proud of is a partnership that I know Matt Rayburn and his team were working on and partnering with FSSA's Division of Mental Health and Addiction. We heard from Jeff on the supportive housing fund that we created, but with FSSA we created a landlord mitigation reserve fund, and the goal of this program is to encourage landlords to lease available units within their property to individuals in recovery. That program provides both support for individuals recovering from substance abuse disorder and incentive to landlords to lease these units to them. One of the challenges we have is finding available units across our state for folks to have safe, affordable, decent housing. So this is an incentive program, and how it works is, in the event that one of the units were to become damaged, the damages in the past due rents could be recovered through the mitigation fund and through IHCDA. So landlords that do participate would have that insurance if anything were to happen as part of that renting to folks. So really proud of that partnership that we have with FSSA and the Landlord Mitigation Reserve Fund for that. So.
What are can you talk about, metrics or
Um,
any outcomes or anything
Yeah,
as a result?
we don't have them yet. We just launched it last month. There's $50,000 that's available to landlords. So we'll learn more as we kind of get into it and understanding. Hopefully the fund doesn't need to be used because we are confident that these residents are good residents and responsible residents. But in some situations there might be an issue. So just making sure that we can provide the assurance to the landlord that that rental unit can go back online as quickly as possible if something were to happen. But yes, but yeah, we'll know more. We could probably provide an update. I know we do have to provide an update to FSSA as well. I'm looking at Matt, so on a report. Yeah, yeah, especially as we get more outcomes or outputs on it. But yeah, right now we don't have any, so we just launched it. Speaking of landlord outreach, we've partnered with HUD headquarters in DC and also here in Indianapolis. Yesterday we announced a partnership to host the first landlord symposium here in Indianapolis to increase landlord participation with our Housing Choice Voucher program across our state. This will be a first of its kind, and HUD is looking to replicate this in other states in 2020, but they're going to host it here. They're going to start it here on December 5th, where we'll be inviting landlords who are interested or currently lease their units to residents who have a Housing Choice Voucher. So the symposium, like I said, is set to start on December 5th, and really proud of the partnership that we have with HUD and the outreach of educating our landlords on the benefits of leasing your units to individuals or households who have Housing Choice Vouchers. In addition to that, prior to learning about the partnership with HUD, Matt and his team and Jeff, and they have also had some other outreach events across our state, and we have another one coming up in partnership with the Bloomington Housing Authority on November 13th, where we'll be also providing a landlord outreach event. Again, with folks focused on that South Central Indiana and understanding the benefits of accepting residents who have a Housing Choice Voucher. So earlier last month, we launched My Community, My Vision. It's the 6th year, and with Carmen's team, we work with high school students to empower them to develop community plans and also to take on a community placemaking project. This partnership is with Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis School for Public Environmental Affairs, where each of the 5 high schools or student-led teams will have a graduate student with them from October through April. And also we have partnerships with the local units of government and with Accelerating Indiana Municipalities, or AIM, and that's a part of the Mayor's Network, and we have a great relationship with them. But the student-led groups this year are from Hobart, Jasper, Mishawaka, North Putnam, and Versailles. So, and each of those teams will also get $5,000 to implement a community project promoting placemaking. And then in April, each of those teams will present to their communities and to state legislators and Lieutenant Governor's office what their plan is for their community, so that they can continue to provide their talent here in our state and also in their hometown. So
Is that a competitive process?
it was. We had a really good response this year. We had about 8 or so seven responses this year with communities that were interested in participating. We have several also that are part of a Mayor's Youth Council that we've seen. So Yes, it is competitive. So, this time of year, there's a lot of conferences going on. We feel like we're always at a or being asked to go to conferences. I just want to give you a quick update, because I know the agency is looked at as a leader when it comes to housing and community development. But it really does come out when you see the amount of times we're asked to speak as subject matter experts on affordable housing and community development. And I just want to recognize our team and our staff, and just share with you a little bit of what's going on, especially here this fall. At the state level, the Affordable Housing Association of Indiana has their annual conference, which is taking place right now today. And Matt, Devin, Alan, Stephen, Evan, and myself are all on some kind of panel or participating in some way, sharing the work that's going on at IHCDA or providing technical assistance. We hosted a Continuum of Care Development Day, and I know Community Services team and Zach, his team were there as well, really took the lead on that, and working with the various different COCs across our state. The Governor's Council for Persons with Disabilities Conference is taking place, and Matt and Jeff also participated at that. Those are just a sample of the staff time and participation that's taking place. At a national level, we get invited to multiple different conferences where states come together and organizations to share best practices, and we're always being asked to share best practices. Just this week, the National Council for State Housing Agencies, I know Kylene and Matt and I all spoke on various different topics and presented about the work that's going on here in Indiana. NCP, which is really more of another conference focused on compliance of the tax credit program. I know Matt was like the kickoff of that as well, the opening preliminary sessions.
Right, Matt.
And then, 2 weeks ago, the governor and lieutenant governor kicked off a conference that was held here in Indiana, a national conference for the first time called Alliance for Strong Families and Communities. In addition to that, at the lunch, I was asked to be on a panel discussion with James Taylor of the John Bonner Center, Indigo, and Employ Indy on accelerating social and economic mobility here on the Near East side of Indianapolis. So we were part of that conversation as well. So, and then in a couple weeks, I'm also speaking at the Affordable Housing Finance Live conference, national conference in Chicago, on the future of the affordable housing tax credit and what does that look like in 2020. So I just share with you that because, to your point, Tom, oftentimes you don't get to see that piece of it, but our agency is not just going to conferences, but we're engaged in those conferences. We're oftentimes being looked at to be leaders and to be subject matter experts and to share the best practices that are going on across our state, whether it be a home innovation round that we just approved, which I'm sure we're going to get asked to speak on that as well. So a lot of great things are going on here in our state, and really proud of the team that we have here. And it shows because we're being asked to present on those ideas and sparking future conversations in other states as well. So, yep. I want to mention real quick, board members responsible for taking the ethics training, and I know hopefully if you haven't got the email from Kylene, please let us know, but make sure we get that completed by November 21st. So the next board meeting is on November 21st, so it's a week early in November. It'll be here at IHCDA. This is one of probably our highest profile board meetings because we'll be recommending the 2020 affordable housing tax credits. So it'll be a packed house. You might want to get here a little early to avoid the crowd and the rush and the pictures and all that good stuff. But it's always a great event. I'm excited. I know the team has done a great job of reviewing the applications. We've had some really good applications. We're going to have to make, they're not difficult decisions, but there's some decisions in terms of developments that would have tremendous impact on affordable housing across our state that just are not going to score at a level where we have enough credits to award. But the ones that we're going to be awarding and recommending to this board are highly impactful developments in our communities that not only create affordable housing, but have a positive impact on their communities as well and the residents. So stay tuned for that. That's a little teaser for next November, for November 21st. I know Alan and his team's ready to present to you on those. So with that, Madam Chair, that's my update. So.
Well, and, you know, you commented on all the conferences that, you know, you all participate in.
Mhm.
And certainly, I think the Indiana Housing Community Development Authority is really kind of the gold standard among affordable housing in the country. It's because of leadership. You know, at the end of the day, it's because of leadership, and it's because of your leadership. And I don't know if the board realizes that this year is Jake's 20th anniversary with public service to the state of Indiana and to the Indiana Housing and Community Development Authority. And because of your vision and your forward thinking and your initiatives, empowering your staff, finding solutions, innovative programs like, you know, My Community, My Vision, Ramp Up, you know, the placemaking, the country's first blight elimination program. I mean, you truly are a public servant with a public servant's heart. And so on behalf of the state of Indiana and the Lieutenant Governor's Office, we'd like to present you with a
what you got
certificate.
there? I thought you were just
of
giving
a-
me some nice words of wow, look at that.
Certificate of appreciation just for your 20
Thank
years
you.
of service to the Indiana Housing Community Development Authority.
Thank you very
All
much.
right.
That's all right. All right.
And maybe we could get a picture with the board.
I would love
when
a
we
picture with the
adjourn.
board. Yes, we definitely need a picture with the board. Thank you.
You
Well,
are so welcome.
thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve. I'm very humbled by all this. I have the best team. I have the best agency, I think. And I don't know what to say. Just
No.
thank you very much for that. So.
You're welcome. And now we want to get him on the World Food Championships and the finals. That's a private joke. Maybe not.
No,
Maybe
hey,
not.
they know I barbecue.
Is there any further business to come before the board? I'll entertain a motion. And we stand adjourned. Thank you, board. And let's get a picture with Jake if we can.